Cannabis Common Sense, the show that tells the truth about marijuana and the politics behind its prohibition.
Hello and welcome to another exciting edition of Cannabis Common Sense. Our show is a production of the Hemp and Cannabis Foundation and our affiliated political committee, the Campaign for the Restoration and Regulation of Hemp, or CRRH. We have an exciting show for you tonight. Tim Pate and I will be taking your phone calls and questions. Howdy, Tim.
Hey, Paul.
In addition, Tim will be playing us some music, as he's wont to do. We have some film clips, a clip from a British movie that's made about 3 or 4 years ago called The Magic Weed, about our favorite herb, and a few other surprises. So stay tuned as we bring out our infamous Dancing Cannabis Leaves.
I feel the force.
It is my great pleasure to introduce the illustrious, multi-talented virtuoso, Mr. Tim Pate.
Thank you.
Okay, that's Mr. Tim Pate. We are going to be taking your phone calls here in just a moment. If you have a question for us, give us a call. We need taking questions about ending adult marijuana prohibition, restoring industrial hemp, helping medical marijuana patients, and anything to do with those topics in cannabis, sativa, indica, ruderalis, all of those things. Just give us a call. If you are in the Portland area or outside it, you can call us at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. If you are out on the internet, you can go to ustream.tv/channel/cannabis-common-sense. You can type in a question right there in the chat box and chat with other people out watching it on the internet. How are you doing tonight?
I'm good, Paul. How are you?
Very well, very well.
You're over your cold now?
I am. Thank
Yay.
goodness. Thank goodness.
Now that took that
It was a
cold
tough
hangs
one. It
on.
went through my whole family for a few days, but that's the way it goes.
I had it
sometimes.
myself. It was no fun.
Yeah, so it's been a pretty eventful week.
Yeah, for me too. I got to pick up one of the grand prizes for the Seattle Hemp Fest this week.
Great.
We're giving away another guitar, so I have this gorgeous
Seems
guitar.
to be an annual event now. How many years have you been giving away a guitar at the Seattle Hemp Fest?
Well, this will be the 12th guitar I've been given.
So is that one a year?
No, 1 year we gave away one. Next year we gave away 3, and then we gave away 2, and then each year since then.
So how many years
1.
is that? Like
this
at least
is the 6th or 7th year.
6th or 7th year.
Yeah,
okay.
it really is the 6th or 7th year, somewhere in there. And so I'm, to me, it's fun to be Santa Claus in front of 500,000 people giving away.
It's pretty unique. I got to get up on the stage a couple times right around 4 o'clock, and the crowd's biggest at
It's
4
very
o'clock.
big.
It's a pretty,
It really
pretty
is.
amazing thing there. The Seattle Hemp Fest happens at Myrtle Edwards Park down on the 3rd weekend of the month. What days is it this year?
It is Friday, Saturday, and Sunday. Whatever those days are, it's always the 3rd weekend in August.
It's going to be the first time it's going to include a Friday.
That's true. And we're starting at noon on Friday. And so Vivian and I had several discussions about, what all we're going to be needing to do, because we've got a lot of work cut out for us as the core staff.
Yeah.
There's no doubt
3
about
days
that.
of events. You got to start a day earlier. And
We are. In fact, this year we're having raffles both days.
it's 50% more for everything.
That's true. It's a lot of more people. There's a lot more people who every year keep coming and jamming us in, and really the only way we give other bands opportunities, because we just like the same problem we have at Hemp
Six
Stock.
stage now.
There is. Although we won't have the comedy stage, they couldn't make that happen again this year.
Yeah, it seemed to be a difficult venue to have comedy.
Well, I really
It's
wanted
hard
to
to
get
come
down
up
there.
with comedians who can stay funny for 3 days.
It's true. You're right.
Humor's a hard thing to achieve, I think, in general.
That's true. I played the comedy stage 1 year at the Bite here in Portland, and the comedians were having to do their same sticks 3 nights in a row, and that was difficult for them. You're right. It wouldn't be easy.
Well, we have our first phone call of the evening. Welcome to the show, caller.
Yeah, hi, how you doing?
Good. Very well, thank you.
Okay, I got a couple questions for you. Just one, I was wondering if and when they have a dispensary here, how long till we'll have one open here, an extra dispensary where I can go and purchase like an ounce of medicine or something? And when and if they have one, I want to know how much would it be about?
Well, that's a good question.
Good
There is an initiative that's turned in somewhere between, I think, 102 and 110,000 raw signatures to the Secretary of State that would establish a dispensary system in Oregon, where the dispensaries would be nonprofits, and the growers wouldn't have to be nonprofits that supply the dispensary. And then they would be able to sell to medical marijuana patients. What the prices will be, I think, they should be driven down by competition. And since they are nonprofits operating them, their books will be public. And so
$2 a pound is what I propose.
Yeah,
We'll see if we get that low, but
I'm looking forward to bringing back the $10 ounce, but I don't think we'll get there very quickly. But I think that the price will start coming down when we do that. And of course, when it's especially if in California they just completely legalize it. And there is an initiative that has made the ballot that would allow individuals in California to grow their own, and it would also allow cities and counties to set up marijuana sales to anyone over the age of 21. So that initiative's up for a vote. It's got 56% support. Here in Oregon, we also have an initiative to completely legalize cannabis, but we're a long way from qualifying it. It seems like a dark horse long shot at this time, but you can find out more about that one at cannabistaxact.org. Also, we've just mailed out about 420 volunteer packages, a little bit more than that actually, to 420 different people across the state. if all of them spent about 2 days gathering signatures, it would qualify. You can go out there on the internet and get one of those packages at facebook.com 1000 strong for OCTA. OCTA is OCTA, and that's the Oregon Cannabis Tax Act petition. But it would be purely speculative of me to guess what the prices would be in Oregon dispensaries. I note that the dispensaries in California, the prices are generally between $250 and $450 per ounce, but those are not generally nonprofits, so some of them are. And so it remains to be seen what the price will eventually come down to. But I can tell you that cannabis grows on 10 to 15 foot tall trees in a single season, and a single plant can produce many pounds. And so the price should come down when the risk of incarceration goes away.
Well, you figure. You figure. See, like I know you're saying, because I've been growing. I've been incarcerated for it once upon a time when it was illegal. Now I'm a medical card holder, and I'm also a caregiver for 2 other people, my brother and another friend. Mm-hmm. And so yeah, I know you can get quite a bit about it, but it's still, it's quite a bit of work. And I figure, I don't know, it's hard to say what it cost me per ounce to make, to actually make it from start to finish, and all the labor that goes into it. But I enjoy doing it, so it's not a problem. I like doing it anyway. And as far as outdoor goes, most I've got a 4.5 pounds off one plant. It was like about 12 feet tall, and that was a couple of summers ago. But I would like it to be, lower the price down too. It's just crazy how expensive it is. I mean, and people that are sick that can't afford it, it makes me feel bad.
Yeah, and you hear about patients down in California who just need 2 ounces a month, which isn't that much, but they're spending over $1,000 for that 2 ounces.
That's not a patient-friendly
and then that makes
system.
There are not many really sick people who can afford to spend $1,000 a month. I would say most people out there can't afford to spend $1,000 a month on anything outside of their rent and food and utilities.
Exactly. Yeah, exactly. And like the people. Yeah, and exactly. And the people that I was doing it for now, the old guy that I was doing it for, every person that he's done it with ripped him off. They gave nothing but,
that's the scary thing, and I've seen it happen to thousands of people. Mm-hmm. I grow cannabis and I give it away for free to the lucky patients I have, but there aren't, and most of those patients had bad experiences before I became their caregiver. But we try to help as many people as we can and keep spreading the word.
Yeah, and the last person who was my provider ended up in prison for 10 years without parole. So
for illegally selling your medicine.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly.
That might be, so you were ripped off.
I was severely ripped off. Anybody, it can happen to anyone. It really can, and you have to keep your eyes open and be alert and just hopeful that you have the medicine you need through the day. That's really
I think
all
that's
I can
a
for.
good. Be alert, because the world needs more alerts.
That's right, we do.
That was supposed to be a joke.
That was bad.
Anyway, thanks for your phone call.
Have a good day.
Yeah, you too.
If you're out there and you have a question for us tonight, you can call us from anywhere in the world at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. If you're out there on the internet, you can type a question in at ustream.tv. That's the letter U, STREAM.tv/channel/cannabis-common-sense. And we're live on the internet now, and you can type a question in there, and if through the magic of communication, we can read the questions right here on the air and answer them too.
Cool. We got another call.
Welcome, caller, to our show.
Hello?
Hello.
Hi, I want to know if you can have a medical marijuana card in another state other than the state you live in.
In every other state except for California, the law explicitly says that you have to be a resident of that state. However, there are 4 states that recognize other states' cards. Those states are the 3 M states: Montana, Maine, and Michigan, plus Rhode Island. So if you have a card from any state, you can go legally to Montana, Maine, Michigan, and Rhode Island as a medical marijuana patient. In fact, each of those states have dispensaries, and you can buy cannabis. Well, Rhode Island doesn't have one yet, but they're setting it up. And because they have reciprocity, they recognize other states' medical marijuana cards, you can buy marijuana at the dispensaries in those states.
Okay, but not California.
Well, you can get a card for California as an out-of-state resident. Most of the dispensaries, though, are going to want to see some kind of California identification because they're afraid of potential law enforcement activity based on interstate patients.
I see. Okay, thank you.
You're welcome. Yeah, it's kind of strange. I think there should be reciprocity in all states for medical marijuana. And I mean, my driver's license, if it didn't cover me outside of Oregon, if I had to go get a driver's license in every state, I wouldn't be traveling very much. That's
I
for
myself feel like I'm a prisoner here on the West Coast because if I wanted to travel by vehicle, by car, to even see my folks in the Midwest, I would be passing through states I'd be illegal in, you know, in most of those states.
Well, you know, here
And
at
I
the
hate that
Portland
part.
airport, I've had them find my cannabis on a couple of occasions, and I've shown them my medical marijuana card. And one time they just sent me on the way. The other time they said, well, you're not going to be legal when you land. I was going to Hawaii at that time, so I showed them I have a Hawaiian permit.
Yeah, you do. Yeah.
And so they said, well, you're not going to be illegal in the air between here and there. And I said, well, there is no country in the air between here and
That's
there.
international
So
waters,
they
if I'm not
let me
mistaken.
go on my way, and I got to keep my cannabis in both of those cases. And so that is the situation. We have a studio audience member who has a question for us here. Go right ahead.
On that same topic, I have family in California, and I was actually seen at your clinic, I believe, by Dr. Camacho. Is that correct?
Yes.
And, well, I'm wondering if I were to go down and visit my family in California with my my current Oregon ID, in your experience, do you think I would encounter any issue?
Well, you know, generally you probably won't. However, your Oregon medical marijuana card will not cover you in the state of California. And they don't have reciprocity in the state of California. And the doctor you mentioned, Dr. Camacho, though she's a wonderful lady,
She's licensed in California?
only licensed in Oregon and Puerto Rico.
Okay.
So she's not licensed in California. Now,
Okay.
we do have doctors here in Oregon that could see you and write a California recommendation. And there are doctors down there that would be happy to write you a California medical marijuana recommendation. Lots of them.
It seems maybe was she licensed previously in California, or
No, she wasn't.
Or was
She
there
hasn't.
a doctor at your clinic that was licensed?
Oh, yeah, we have several doctors.
I've been a patient of your clinic for a while, and that's what I
Yeah.
must have been thinking of.
So yeah, I think we have Dr. Eisenbud and Orvald and
they're still
I could go down
currently
the
at your
list
clinic?
of others that are licensed both here in Oregon and in the state of California, but several.
Oh, excellent.
You just have to, if you want a California recommendation, you need to go to a doctor who's licensed in the state of California. And so
All right. Well, thank you very much.
Sure.
You know, I've noticed on my trips to California, they've always been friendly and accommodating.
You know,
But
when they stop
I try
you
not to press
at
any,
the border,
you know?
they ask you if you have any apples or bananas or fruits or anything. They never say, do you have any marijuana buds in there? So,
That's true, they don't.
you know, they don't ask
I'm
you
grateful
that
they don't.
question. Yeah. We have another telephone question. Welcome to our show, caller.
Hello.
Hello.
My name's
Howdy.
Jodine.
Hello. Jody.
Hi. I was just calling because I'm a fairly new client with the medical marijuana, and I'm not sure how to get started about how to, start my own growing.
Right. That is difficult. I mean, you basically have, I recommend that you get cuttings, and there are several ways to get cuttings and several organizations you can go to. We always mention Oregon Normal on this show. We've had a long relationship with them, and so they have twice a month meetings. I think their next meeting is on June 12th. You could go to some magazines such as Cannabis Culture magazine, and there are places there you can order seeds from Canada or the Netherlands, and they may or may not get through. You can ask anyone in the black market that you know of to buy cuttings, and cuttings are the best way to go because you have a known genotype, and when you make cuttings off of them, you can know that you've got something that's a female and ready to go forward. So I would recommend that you obtain cuttings, and before you learn how to make buds or you start making buds, you learn how to or start making cuttings. And once you have rooted cuttings from your baby plants or your big plants, then you're ready. You can continue gardening. It's kind of like the difference between catching a fish or learning to fish. Once you have rooted cuttings, you can bud the original mother plant if you want and continue that strain and know that you'll be able to continue your garden.
There's some great books on the subject too that you can find on almost any bookstore here in town.
Speaking of which, our longtime favorite and the one we recommend most highly is written by fellow Portlander George Cervantes. And George owned a gardening store here in Portland for a number of years. It's Marijuana Horticulture, the Indoor-Outdoor Medical Marijuana Bible. And it's under $30 and has 1,200 pages and over 1,200 color photographs. And hey, there's Tim. It has.
I do have that book.
Oh, that's great.
I did go ahead and purchase that. I also was questioned because when I went up to the state to get my license, a lady was there and she gave me a card that has a class that kind of gets you started.
Right on.
On that, and I haven't had a chance to do that. And I did go to one of the meetings, but because of the stairs, I couldn't climb up the stairs to the meeting, but I got to watch it down
I think
below.
they're looking for a new location for that normal meeting now.
Yeah,
And so there are some other options, and there are other places to go out there. You just have to remain vigilant. And there are also websites you can go to, like igotmycard.com and OregonGreenFree.com and other places where patients can help each other. It's legal for you.
Budbook.com?
Budbook.com. Very good example.
Yeah.
Budbook is burgeoning, and it's a rapidly growing consortium of patients all over the place. So you can definitely, through the internet, meet patients through those sites and or look around and find these clubs that are starting up all over town.
If somebody wants a lot of money, though, to walk away.
Yeah.
Okay, I can do that. Well, thanks a lot, and I hope I can start a good growth going.
Oh,
here.
Good luck. Good luck.
Thank you.
You bet.
Bye.
Glad to help.
I know. Hey, that's a nervous time when it's your first crop, and you want it to work, but you know.
Oh, I was paranoid. Well, I
Yeah.
had been arrested for marijuana in the past 10 years or so before, but I was paranoid and afraid to do it. It took me about a year, more than a year, to get over the paranoia associated, and sometimes little traces of it come back.
My first year was the first year I grew legally. Was the first year I grew, and so I will admit to that I didn't do it until I had my license, right? But I still had to expect, and I did get the visit from the local gendarmes.
I think the first time I grew, I was 14 in Texas.
I wouldn't say that myself.
I was 14. I mean, we're talking
I didn't live in Texas when I was 14.
years ago, a good long time ago. And so the statute of limitations is over
Probably
times
is.
7 or
Yes,
something like
let's
that.
hope so.
But yeah, I think at the time the people who sold me cannabis might have spent longer in prison if they'd sold me cannabis
yeah.
than if they'd killed me at that point.
That's it. That's
the
it. That's ridiculous.
irony of the marijuana laws out there.
That is.
So again, if you have a question for us, give us a call at 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. And we have another caller. Welcome to the show, caller.
Hi.
Hello.
Howdy.
Hi. I just had a question. I had heard that the Octa bill that's been proposed by you guys, that in it there's a thing that says that a percentage of the money goes directly to the helping the production of hemp, and I just wanted to if you could elaborate on that and just give a little more details on like the exact
Sure.
percentage.
The Oregon Cannabis Tax Act proposal, of which I'm the primary author and been working on for 22 years, since 1988, would, in its current version, set up 2% of the proceeds from the sales of marijuana to adults to promote and assist in the growth of hemp industries. 1% would go to promote hemp fiber and food oil products, and then 1% would go to promote hemp fuel and hemp biodiesel products. And so it would set up 2% of the proceeds to go to promote industrial hemp production. And, you know, I truly believe the reason that marijuana is illegal was to protect the petrochemical industries from competition from hemp, as new machinery had made hemp incredibly inexpensive compared to its previous price. Just like the cotton gin, when it was introduced, dropped the price of cotton 100-fold in the 1820s. At the turn of the 20th century, back about 1905 and 1910, this fellow invented a device called the decorticator, a fellow called Schlittigan here in the United States. And Schlittigan's decorticator, like the cotton gin before it, dropped the price of hemp products 100-fold. And as soon as that machine got into use, the petrochemical industry realized that it was going to displace their capital-intensive industries. Petrochemicals take incredible amounts of money to market and produce, and they only the richest can enter those markets, where industrial hemp products can be grown by any farmer and can produce over 300 gallons of oil per acre that'll run any diesel engine, any modern diesel engine, without any conversion to the hemp seed oil or to the diesel engine.
Yeah, not to mention 4 times as much paper pulp as any kind of tree.
Yeah, and that's a waste product. And according to that USDA Bulletin 404, that waste product from producing canvas, rope, lace, and linen makes 4 times more paper than the most productive tree species. That study's a bit dated back to 1916, but I think it holds true even today.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, definitely. I actually I have a book that I picked up online, and I'll bring it by the clinic next time I have a chance. But it's an old book, like a bi-yearly journal, medical journal kind of thing, and it does like physics, botany, and something else, and it basically has like 10 different places in the book where it talks about the use of cannabis to cure all sorts of things.
What date is on the book?
What date is it?
Yeah, what's the copyright date on it?
It actually, hold on one second. It was from like 1870.
Right on.
So it actually, there's one of the main things that it talked about, because I'm sure it was like one of the big popular things to do back in the day with the strychnia or whatever. But it talks about how you can, one of the main things you can do for strychnia poisoning is the use of cannabis.
Strychnia's nasty?
Cannabis and water, but yeah, strychnia is like rat poison.
Yes.
Strychnine,
so,
strychnine.
Yeah, strychnine, sorry.
Yeah, that's okay.
But so there's definitely a lot of information out there if people want to look at it. I mean, it's not hard to find that.
That's true. There's a list out there called Granny Storm Crow's List. We have it on our website. It's on several other websites, and it's a paper that contains over 1,500 different citations for the medical use of marijuana, broken down by condition. So you can look up alcoholism or Lou Gehrig's disease or multiple sclerosis or chronic pain and find a whole slew of medical journal articles and links to those articles on the internet right on that list. So just do a Google search on Granny Storm Crow's List, and that'll come right up.
Yeah, because I have an uncle that actually is in doing with the gene type of like a chemist, and he won't every time I mention cannabis, he's don't get on the snake oil stuff again. Well, I mean, people, it's crazy, but people
that's too bad.
People deny all the medical uses and the industrial uses and stuff, but it's not. I mean, it's not hard to. If you look at the wood companies, the cotton companies, the oil companies, the medicine companies, the pharmaceuticals, all of them, they all have their piece of the pie that's going to be taken away if this one plant is legal, if this one plant can be used.
You talk about your snake oil. I mean, think of all the people they've killed just through the chemistry.
Well, just look at the Gulf of Mexico today. And imagine that if that was hemp seed oil, the sea life would be thriving, and they'd have a very nutritious food to take care of themselves instead of being killed by the toxic side effects of petroleum.
Breaks
Yeah,
my heart.
I also heard that one of the main things that can be used that's the safest and almost most effective is to use things like hay, or in the case of if we had a little bit of legal leeway on growing hemp, we could have used hemp fiber to clean up all this oil.
That's right. You could use the hemp hurd, and it would absorb it.
That's what hemp hurd had traditionally been used for, and you can still buy it today as animal bedding and flooring for barns to clean up animal waste.
Yeah, definitely.
I want to thank you for your questions and phone calls here. We got a studio audience member to take too.
If I could have one more question, I just wanted to
go
ask,
ahead.
you had mentioned before that there was you were trying to hire like 90 petitioners for.
That hasn't come to pass. We needed to have $250,000, and it. While I could put in some of that, I couldn't put in all of that, and so it's kind of on hold. And it seems
went to a volunteer effort instead.
It's a volunteer effort currently. And
well, I will be by on the 18th and 18th to pick up some sheets.
Good. Okay. Very good. We'll have to make sure there's some available.
Thanks for what you guys are doing.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Okay.
Yeah, we're still hoping that a mysterious benefactor will materialize. I did get a call from a fellow who used to be in head of the drug policy project at the ACLU, now with Stanford University Law School, saying that funders are interested, but I think it's a real long shot. So we'll have to see what happens. We have another question from a studio audience member. Go right ahead.
Yeah, Paul, can you tell the audience what would happen if a tanker of hemp oil was released in the Gulf of Mexico?
Well, it would feed the animals, and the fish would have a valuable food, and it wouldn't be toxic, and it wouldn't kill them. It wouldn't be the way it is now, which is a real travesty and
it's awful.
The rape and pillage of our Mother Earth, if you ask me.
I have flown over that part of the Gulf, and it's
scary.
Oh,
and to think they haven't resolved it yet. We have a film clip we're going to roll now. This is an excerpt from a British history of cannabis called The Magic Weed. We'll be back in just a moment. Enjoy.
The method for alleviating period pains. She was also prescribed morphine or laudanum, another popular remedy for many complaints.
In Amsterdam, cannabis, which had been imported from the Dutch colonies of South Africa since 1660, was smoked in coffee shops, a tradition that has survived until present day. At the end of the 19th century, Indian migrants brought cannabis into Mexico, where it was named marijuana, and then became the symbol of Pancho Villa's rebellion with the song La Cucaracha. Mexican farmers on their side copied the Indian water-retting process to prepare the fibers. They made every kind of product, from hats to bags and carpets. Marijuana traveled from Mexico to the southern states of America. Black people working in the cotton plantations smoked it to try and soften their harsh lives, which were aggravated by the economic aftermath of the Civil War. Marijuana fever hit the suburbs of Louisville through Dixieland jazz and swing. Marijuana was known in America as reefer or grass. Within a few years, reefer songs spread widely from the music clubs which had appeared everywhere where the immigrant black community settled.
Have you ever met that funny reefer man? Have you ever met that funny reefer man?
Along with new developments in the hemp industry and a growing awareness of the dangers of alcohol, marijuana began to be the subject of interest in the corridors of political power.
In 1911, New Orleans, and then Louisiana and Mississippi, and a couple of states along the Mississippi River outlawed marijuana.
Meanwhile, alcohol was increasingly being seen as a danger to society. American women lobbied for alcohol to be banned,
They succeeded with prohibition, which led to illegal speakeasies, the proceeds of which enriched criminals and resulted in violence and gang warfare. Alcohol was legalized again in 1933.
Then all of a sudden alcohol was becoming legal again, and all these agents didn't have anything to do. And Harry Anslinger thought, well, we should have a law against hemp, and so did William Randolph Hearst, and so did DuPont. And the three companies got together, and other people claimed the cotton industry joined in to outlaw hemp because it was making a huge comeback. And the reason it was making a huge comeback is that it took 200 to 300 hours to plant, harvest, and make ready for fiber, acre of hemp. But all of a sudden, in the 1930s, that 200 or 300 man-hours per acre went down to 1 man-hour per acre. It was a better fiber than any other fiber and previous hemp fibers. And that was the beginning of the end of all fibers, as being the only synthetic. Nylon, which is the new synthetic, would have to make way for the reintroduction of hemp as an inexpensive fiber, as well as the strongest, the best, the longest lasting, and the softest fiber. The government of the United States outlawed a fiber and forced the rest of the world to swallow it. They swallowed the outlawing of the #1 fiber on Earth for 10,000 years until the 1930s, and then they outlawed it completely.
China, the hemp country, was part of the Japanese plan for military conquest.
But in official Tokyo, seat of an empire which for nearly a decade has been governed by its stern and ruthless military caste, there is more activity, more secret comings and goings than in many a year. The little men who command the world's third largest navy see in the South Pacific the richest of all colonial prizes. The Philippines, a group of 7,091 Pacific islands which, still under the protection of the U.S. flag, constitute the only major hazard to Japanese plans for new conquest in the war year of 1940. Already one important island industry, the growing and processing of Manila hemp, is almost entirely under Japanese control. And within the past few years, by intensive cultivation, Japanese immigrant farmers have increased production of the one cash crop which has long been a virtual Philippine monopoly.
The invasion of the two big hemp-producing countries, China and Philippines, was the start of hemp rationing. Hitler was also aware of the strategic importance of hemp, which was used in the making of canvas and ropes, both of which were an essential part of his war effort. In 1941, when the German army invaded Russia, it blocked Britain's supply of Russian hemp. Germany managed to develop her own hemp production, but the cultivation of this fiber, which had become so necessary in wartime, was still banned in Great Britain. In 1942, the German troops reached the center of Russia. The land continued to produce hemp, which enabled Hitler to move confidently to the next stage of his plans for the Reich. To safeguard its own supplies of hemp, Great Britain urged India to increase production. Meanwhile, the war was spreading to Japan.
Within little more than a year, Japan, successfully employing once again the deceit and treachery which had so well served her in the past, had taken the final desperate plunge.
When Japan bombed Pearl Harbor, forcing the United States of America to declare war, Americans realized they were cut off from their hemp supplies. The U.S. Navy was totally dependent upon hemp for rot-resistant ropes for their ships and for many other components. The American government then decided to redevelop their hemp industry. Marijuana was legalized again and farmers received seeds. A propaganda film called Hemp for Victory was then made to encourage this war effort. Allies' air forces were completely reliant upon hemp. Parachute straps, packs, and belts were made out of hemp. No other available fiber was so strong and so reliable under combat conditions. After General MacArthur had forced the Japanese to withdraw from the Philippines, hemp production soon reached pre-war levels again. After the war years, a new world arose from the ashes of the old. India gained independence. Thanks to automation, India doubled its hemp production and increased its exports to America and the rest of the world. In peacetime, the United States once again banned the cultivation of hemp and cannabis, but at the same time imported millions of tons of hemp during the post-war economic boom to supply its industries.
For this is the Port of New York, a sprawling pattern of activity covering more than 1,500 square miles. Its 650-mile waterfront, an ever-changing mirror reflecting the work of the world and its needs.
There, we're back.
There, that is a British film, obviously. It's called The Magic Weed, and it's a great one. I recommend you go out there and grab it. We have a question from Ustream.tv. It's, what do you think about medical users being prosecuted and arrested for driving under the influence of drugs, or DUID? I don't like it. I don't like it at all. Now, no one should be out there smoking and driving. It's not the same as drinking alcohol. We know that. But it's not an argument that you're going to win. So it's best not to do it. And so I can't say I've never done it, but I would recommend against smoking and driving or consuming cannabis and driving. For medical patients, we always recommend that they don't use cannabis prior to driving, operating heavy or dangerous machinery, or going into work. And so
I want to bring up the thought that you and I could stop smoking today, and we would still have it in our systems.
Right, and your analysis test wouldn't be valid in court. The only thing that would be valid in court for driving under the influence of marijuana would be a blood test, and so that's the only way they can.
Which is the only true impairment test.
Yeah. Yeah, well, it's not even really an impairment test, but it's a true test of active THC in your bloodstream.
There you go.
Your analysis testing only shows metabolites, and metabolites show that you used marijuana in the past, but not necessarily were using it at the time of the drug test or before the drug test, of any time where you'd be impaired or under the influence.
So it really couldn't measure whether you had it in your system and were impaired at that moment.
The only way they can test is by taking a blood test, and they do try to do that. They try to take a marijuana suspect who's driving into a hospital and draw blood that they can use as evidence in a driving under the influence case. So that's the way they do it. Urinalysis testing doesn't do that. We have another phone call. Welcome to the show, caller.
Nope,
they're gone.
We lost
Sometimes that happens.
Yes, it does.
But if you have a question for us tonight, give us a call at that number there on your screen. It's 503-288-4448. That's 503-288-4448. We do have a studio audience member question. I want to remind our viewers that if you're here in the Portland area, just most Friday nights, not every Friday night, but most Friday nights, you can come in and view our show live at 2566 Northeast Martin Luther King Jr. Boulevard, or MLK.
It just happens we won't be on next week.
That's right. We are not going to be doing a live show next week. Our director has a high school graduation, so we'll be running a tape show next week. But we do have a question from a studio audience member. Go right ahead.
Yeah, if you have a prescription for Marinol, can they still try to get you for DUI? I mean,
you know, a Marinol prescription will protect you in a lot of different cases, but they won't protect you if they do a blood test and find enough active marijuana in your system. And I think the threshold is 5 to 7 nanograms of active THC in your blood is the impairment threshold. But again, that's open for debate and would change from individual to individual. But Marinol would protect you in most types of drug tests with urinalysis testing, because if you have a prescription for Marinol, Marinol is synthetic THC, then you would be able to test positive from that, just the same as if you had a prescription for an opiate, you could test positive in a heroin test. We have a telephone question we'll take first. Hello, caller. Welcome to our show.
Hi.
Howdy.
I had a question.
Go right ahead.
I've been recently smoking marijuana, and it's been helping out my back very well. And I've been having problems since I was a very young kid. And I was wondering, would I possibly be able to get a green medical marijuana card for?
Yes. In fact, I would say the majority of patients who have a medical marijuana card have it for chronic pain, and the majority of people who have that have it for some sort of back condition, whether it's compressed discs, compacted discs, ruptured discs, bulging discs, or any combination thereof. But usually that will qualify you.
Now, you said you'd been doing this since you were young, and I know there are people out there who would go, oh my goodness, a child, using something like that. Medicine is medicine, and regardless of your age. And so there are people in this state who are underage and under custodial care of their parents or guardians, and are fully qualified and need that medicine. I've met a number of them over the years, and it always terrifies me to know somebody so young can be so sick. And so,
minors can get a medical marijuana permit in almost every state with permission and supervision of their parents.
Correct.
Or guardians.
As it should be.
It's a case. That answer your question?
I'm turning 18 soon, but would I need to talk to my doctor about this?
Yes, you would. You'd have to talk to your doctor about it, and then you'd there's an application form. Before your 18th birthday, you'd have to have permission from your parents. Your parents would have to fill out documents and submit those to the health department to have a permit issued for you before the age of 18.
But they're easy to get. And
once you're over 18, the forms are very, very easy to get. You can get them online. Just look up the Oregon Medical Marijuana Program through any search engine, and that'll help.
All right. Well, I'm turning 18 this summer, and I was just wondering, do I need to have a certain type of back problem, or
Well, it's up to your doctor, really. And so it's the kind of thing that you'd have to talk to your doctor about, or if you want more information, because I don't want to counsel you here on the telephone directly, I would recommend, on the TV show, I would recommend you call this other number. It's 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. There it is up on your screen. They can answer all your questions and give you guidance of exactly what you need to do and how you can qualify with your doctor, or recommend other doctors if your doctor won't do it for any reason.
All right, thank you.
You're welcome.
You're welcome.
Right.
And good luck.
Weed every day.
Yep. We have a studio audience member question. Go right ahead.
On the subject of urinalysis, there's a bit of it may be just an urban legend, but I'd like it if maybe you could help me decide how much validity there is to it. Something that I've learned, or something that a lot of people that have told me and that I've discussed with some people, is that urinalysis is something that you'll continue to test positive for the metabolites as much as often a month afterwards.
Or even more, up to 60 days. You can have metabolites. It's not uncommon for heavy users such as myself to test for 30 to 60 days.
Well, I guess more of what I had heard, that I'm not sure how much validity there is to it, is that I've heard that's based on the cannabinoids storing in lipid fat cells.
The metabolites. It's not the active cannabinoids, but the metabolites of the cannabinoids. It goes through your liver. The liver processes it or metabolizes it. Once it's been processed or metabolized, they're called metabolites, and they're oil soluble, so they can store in your fat. And as those cells burn that fat,
so it is them and not the actual cannabinoids.
Exactly, it's metabolites that they test for. There won't be any active THC in your urine. Okay. It would only be metabolites of THC.
I guess More so, what my question was is, what I've heard is that if you keep, if you after medicating, if you up your metabolism by, say, I don't know, doing something active, playing frisbee or going for a walk, I've heard that can reduce the chance that, say, if you had an interview that you weren't protected from under the medical marijuana program that included a urinalysis, that can reduce the chance that you'll have residual metabolites.
That would definitely help. And if you had less body fat, that would help. The more body fat a person has, the more area it can be stored in. There's also infrequent users might test negative after 3 to 7 days, where frequent users would test positive for longer because they've had a chance for more of it to be stored in their body.
Well, that's wonderful. That seems to verify not only what I was asking,
but that stored cannabis in your cells is not active and has no effect on a person at all.
Oh no, more so what I was wondering was in the sense of I guess people who see in today's economy might be out looking for work that might be discriminating based on a minority political opinion.
There's no doubt that marijuana users are discriminated against in our society, especially in terms of employment.
Well, that's good to know. That's a way, and that actually reaffirms something I had noticed before, even as an active user, that at a time in my life where I was, I don't know, I guess, feeding myself less based on my financial situation, that I tested negative with active use once. Mm-hmm. Really active use, like
it
just
all depends
before
on the
testing.
test. You know, you can have false positives, where you test positive when you really should be negative, and I think those amount, depending on the test, some tests as high as 7 or 8%, and all tests at least 1 or 2%. Hey, you know what? We have a film clip we're going to run right now, and then we'll be back in just a minute. This is a short clip from a new movie out there. If you're a frequent watcher of this show, you'll recognize The Green Goddess.
The following trailer contains real marijuana.
Legend has it that deep within the THC crystal of the marijuana plant, there lives a goddess. A goddess so incredible that meeting her will transform your life forever.
She's magnificent, glorious, beautiful, delicious.
I want to meet her.
You start with a strain like this, nurture her. Worship her. When your mind is open, she will come.
When their leader is arrested, 3 friends will travel halfway across the world, plant 25,000 marijuana plants, and harvest more organic ganja than you and all of your friends could smoke in 3 lifetimes. Whoa, that's a lot of pot.
You from America? Yep. So you think you can just come over to Europe, grow some weed, and make a whole bunch of money? Doesn't work like that.
All I know is, after how some of y'all treated the son, the Lord felt the need to hide his daughter. And he hid her in the most sacred of sacred places.
They have only one chance to get it right and to meet one goddess. Would you like to meet the Green Goddess?
I do. That's The Green Goddess. And in fact, I am an associate producer on that and an actor in it as well. Got a couple scenes in there, including a little cameo at the end of the movie. But I hope to see it out there in theaters soon. We're still searching for a distributor. We are taking your phone calls. We just have about 5 minutes left here. So go ahead, caller. You're on our show.
Hello. Hey, you mentioned earlier with a couple calls previous to this, there was you mentioned some kind of a product that is made from hemp, but it makes good bedding for animals.
Yeah, hemp herds are the inner woody core of the hemp stalk. Yeah, it's called, you can go to hempcore.com, I believe, and find that, hempcore.com.
Hemp?
Core, C-O-R-E.
.com, and it's called Hemp Cord or something?
No, that's the name of the company. It's a Dutch
Right, but
company. It's called hempcore.com.
Okay, but what's the actual name of the product itself? Is that also
Hemp
called Hemp Core?
Herds. That's H-U-R-D, and it's the inner part of the hemp stock. And I think you can find it from several manufacturers in Canada and Europe.
So it's Hemp Herd, H-U-R-D,
Right.
and is it pretty low on dust? Because I know my friends that have horses and stuff, they use like sawdust and not
Yeah, it's
sawdust,
much
but
lower
like,
in dust and not as harmful as inhaling sawdust.
it's lower in
And
dust.
more
then.
absorbent, much more absorbent than sawdust too.
Very good. Hey, a couple calls ago brought up an interesting subject there. The guy talked about being impaired and supposedly getting a DWI with using hemp. Has anybody ever done any kind of a study and found out if they, like a control group where they put people on, use certain kinds of cannabis, for example, and then maybe have them go out in like a closed course driving test?
Yeah, there have been numerous studies like that, and they've shown that people who have no experience with marijuana generally perform less accurately and less well, and people who have experience with marijuana, generally it doesn't really affect them to any great degree.
That's interesting.
In fact,
'cause
usually they drive slower and do better.
probably more cautious.
Yeah, exactly.
And interesting. I think something should be brought into our driving laws to. Well,
I
for
think
example,
so too, but I think that's not going to happen until we legalize marijuana and it becomes more socially accepted.
Precisely. But what I was going to say is, if a cop pulls you over and thinks you're impaired, pulls you over for like a tail light or something, and then says, "Well, I'd like to do a sobriety test on you," I bet you most people that are experienced users would probably pass the sobriety test with flying colors. Is that probably a correct assumption?
Yeah, that is.
Okay. Well, hey, you guys keep up the good work, and hopefully we get those petitions in so we can bring back industrial hemp and the other stuff too.
I sure hope so too. We're working hard at it. If you're out there, thanks for the call, by the way.
Okay,
if you're out there and you're interested in getting petitions to end adult marijuana prohibition and raise a quarter of the state's budget deficit, just come to facebook.com 1000-strong-4-octa. Also, if you're out there and you have a loved one or you yourself are looking for a doctor who can help you qualify for medical marijuana, we have doctors all over the country. You can call us at 503-235-4606. That's 503-235-4606. Or you can call us at 1-800-723-0188. That's 1-800-723-0188. You know, we've come to the end of the show. Mr. Tim Pate's ready to play. I want to thank you all for watching and tune in next week and help us restore hemp. Good night. See you next week, folks.